Hi, Math 2 students. So for this Edpuzzle, we're going to be kind of reviewing function notation and what a function is, all right? So for number 1, it says evaluate the following expressions given the functions below. So what does this mean? When they say, if we look at 1a here, it says g of 10. That's how you read that. When it's g parentheses 10, you would read that g of 10. And all this is telling you is it's telling you to plug 10 into function g. All right. And what that means is that you're going to put a 10 wherever you see an x in function g. So this is function g here. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a 10. So I get negative 3 times 10 plus 1, which is going to give me negative 30 plus 1, which will give me an answer of negative 29. All right. So for these problems here, all you're doing is you're plugging these values into the function. All right. Then let's go ahead. Let's talk about h here. It says find x if g of x equals 16. Well, what that means is g of x itself is equal to 16. So you can replace g of x with 16. So you would say 16 is equal to negative 3x plus 1. Then you're going to go ahead and solve. We're going to minus 1. We get 15 equals 3x. Oops. Divided by 3, and we get x equals 5. Okay? And that's what it's asking there. It's asking for you to find x. All right? Now, for numbers 2 and 3, all it's asking you to do there is plug into the function. So, for example, for this one here, x is negative 6. You're going to plug negative 6 into the function. So you would do 3 minus 4 times negative 6. That's going to give me 3 plus 24, which is going to give me 27. So I'd put a 27 there. All right. Now, for this last one, I'm not going to do it for you, but you're going to take this negative 5 and plug it in for f of x. You're going to put a negative 5 here and then solve for x. You're working backwards. All right. Then you graph those points. Same thing for number 3. Now for 4, all they're asking you to do here is write this as a coordinate. So keep in mind, right, the notation is always like f of x, right? So the thing on the inside is your x value, and whatever it equals is your y value, all right? So think of it almost as like f of x is going to be equal to y, right? So your coordinate pair for A is going to be negative 1, comma, positive 1, right? This is your x value. This is your y value. Your x value is always your input. And then, of course, if we were graphing this, we would just do negative 1, positive 1. We would end up right there. All right. So then for 5, it says find f of negative 4. So again, this is very similar, right? The x value is equal to negative 4. So we need to find the y value when x is negative 4. So we go to negative 4. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. I go here. Well, my y value is going to be a positive 2. All right. Then for E, it says find x when f of x is equal to 2. Well, f of x, the entire thing, right, that's like y. So it's basically telling you, well, what is x when y is equal to 2? So let's go. We're going to go when y equals 2. All right, look, we actually got 2 x values there. So we could say, let's see, that's not exactly perfect there. Let's go maybe with like 0.8, I guess would be a good one there. So we could say negative 0.8. And I would say we could go, this one's definitely a negative 4. All right, so that one has 2 solutions. All right. So actually, you guys will know how to do negative 6. I'm going to do a different part of this. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and do number 1 here. So it says write the equation of the line from the graphs or from the 2 given points. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's see. Let's do this guy. I guess I'll do number 2. So you got to calculate the slope So there's two ways you could calculate the slope. You could count it, or you could pick 2 points and use a slope formula. In this case, since these are nice units, I'm going to count, all right? So remember that slope is equal to change in y over change in x, all right? Usually when I tutor, I kind of draw this little picture like y is up and down and x is side to side. All right. And another thing I'd like for you to think of is when you look at a line, just think in your head, is this line going to be positive or negative? Okay. I'm clearly looking at this line and this line goes down. So this is going to be a negative slope. I just like to have that in my head to make sure I don't make any silly errors. So we go here. My side to side is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then my up and down is 3. So I'm going to say 3 over 5, and that was negative. So my slope is negative 3/5. Hopefully this is a review. Now, since I have my graph, this is kind of nice and easy. I can just plug into y equals mx plus b. All right. And my m is my slope. And my b is my y-intercept. All right. So I'm going to say y equals, and then my slope, which is negative 3/5. And my y-intercept here is actually 1. So I'm going to say negative 3/5 x plus 1. All right, so that's that one. Now, oh, you see my fun drawings. Before I start every video, I like test to make sure that the audio lines up with what I'm writing, because sometimes it's not synced. So I always do that. All right. So let's go ahead. How about we'll do 2A here. All right. So they want us to come up with the equation. And this one's a little bit trickier because we weren't given a graph. So there's going to be kind of different equations we're going to have to use here. So first things first, let's find the slope. Now the equation for slope, if you don't have a graph, you have to use the equation. It's y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So I like to label them. We're going to say x1, y1, x2, y2. So we plug them in. We get 6 minus 3 all over 5 minus 2. So we get 3 over 3, which gives us 1. So our slope is 1. So now we're going to use what is called point slope form. All right, and it looks like this. You go y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. All right, and basically you need to plug in your slope that you found, and then you're also going to need, so obviously our slope here is 1, but then you also need to plug in a point that was given. So you're going to plug in the x and the y value from a point that was given. It doesn't matter which one you pick. We can go ahead, let's do this guy here. All right, so I guess to be a little bit more specific, we're going to plug in the x value here, and then we're going to plug in the y value here. You don't plug in for x and y, you only plug in for x1 and y1. So you leave the plain old x and y there in the equation when you plug in. So we go ahead, we're going to do y minus, and then our y1 value here is going to be 3, equals our slope, which is 1, times x minus our x1, which was 2. So let's go ahead and get this in y equals mx plus b form. We can distribute this 1. We get x minus 2, bring our 3 over, and we get y equals x plus 1.